We are living through a truly massive biological paradox right now. I mean, think about it. Never before in human history have we had so much incredible technological capability at our fingertips, yet at the exact same time, we've found ourselves so completely physiologically compromised by the very tools we use to build our modern world. Today, we're unpacking a silent biological crisis that is hiding right in plain sight. We're talking about the steep physiological and psychological costs of modern desk work. In this explainer, we are going to look deep under the hood at what actually happens to our highly interconnected physical systems, our brain health, our metabolism, our structural integrity, when we spend the vast majority of our waking lives totally immobilized. But more importantly, we're going to explore the exact clinical, evidence-based antidote you need to reclaim your daily vitality.
Okay, let's dive right into this and just put a number on the problem. 6.29. That is the precise number of hours the average office worker spends entirely, completely static during a standard workday. And listen, when you remain immobile for that long, you aren't just resting, you are literally initiating a systemic metabolic shutdown. Within just a couple of hours of static sitting, your body's production of lipoprotein lipase, which is this essential enzyme that literally gobbles up and breaks down fat in your bloodstream, it drops by up to 90%. Your glucose metabolism just stalls out. So again, this isn't resting, it is the short-circuiting of your basic human biology, introducing these immediate and compounding metabolic consequences that ripple through your entire body.
Actually, let's break the fourth wall for a second. How long have you been in your current physical position right now? Just pause for a moment and do a quick biological audit with me. Take a deep breath. Notice your posture. Are your shoulders kind of creeping up toward your ears right now? Is your jaw tight? Is your lower back rounded? We so often dismiss this as just bad posture, but from a micro mental health perspective, that lingering muscle tension you're feeling is an active, blaring, neurological signal of sympathetic nervous system stress. Your body is quite physically bracing against the heavy cognitive load of your digital day.
To really understand why our bodies react this way, we have to look closely at our evolutionary design. Our biological ancestors operated essentially as hunter-gatherers, right? They were moving constantly. Mechanical stress was an absolute daily requirement to build bone density, to lubricate their joints, to push lymphatic fluid around. Their resting behaviors were actually limited to just 3 to 5 hours a day, and that was usually pure recovery following intense physical exertion. And the modern reality? We sit statically for 13 to 15 hours a day. We have completely inverted our baseline, literally starving our physiological systems of the mechanical stress they fundamentally require to function and thrive.
Epidemiologists actually classify this modern reality as the sitting epidemic. Think of a traditional rigid office chair as essentially a plaster cast that you step into for 8 hours a day. By artificially immobilizing the spine and the hips, we trigger this huge cascade of deep metabolic and structural vulnerabilities. Honestly, this explains the root cause paradox of why modern workers feel chronically, utterly fatigued at 5 p.m., even when they haven't lifted anything heavier than a coffee cup all day. Stagnant blood pools, muscle tissue atrophies, and this foundational structural decay silently begins to set in. Moving right along, let's take a look at the pathology of static work. Let's look at the systemic mechanics here, specifically how they impact your brain health and your capacity for deep work. When you're in a static chair, your core is completely inactive. This causes spinal compression that physically restricts the inferior vena cava, which is the large vein carrying deoxygenated blood back to your heart. This circulatory bottleneck slows the delivery of highly oxygenated blood all the way up to your prefrontal cortex. So, you know that mid-afternoon brain fog you always experience? It is not a lack of caffeine. It is the direct neurobiological result of your attention networks literally starving for oxygen. Active sitting, however, utilizes a dynamic, unstable surface. By forcing your core to make continuous microadjustments, you maintain your natural spinal curve and act as a mechanical pump. You're constantly driving oxygen-rich blood to the brain, which is an absolute prerequisite for maintaining any kind of cognitive endurance. To put this crisis into perspective, the global ergonomic chair market, which was valued at $12 billion in 2024, is projected to surge to $24.17 billion by 2034. That is a massive number. And this is not just corporate spending on fancy office furniture to look good. It is a desperate, massive global capital deployment to rescue cognitive output and preserve the health span of the modern workforce. Organizations are finally waking up to the fact that the devastating loss in cognitive performance, productivity, and long-term biological health caused by static sitting is costing them exponentially more than the intervention itself. So, how do we fix it? That brings us to the microbreak revolution. So what exactly are microbreaks? They are short, voluntary, impromptu pauses during the workday lasting anywhere from 30 seconds to about 5 minutes. From a strict neuroscientific perspective, mental fatigue is quite literally the physical buildup of metabolic waste products in the brain, like adenosine. So pushing through the pain and trying to force focus, it just doesn't work. These brief intervals act as a mandatory biological reset for your central nervous system. They clear out that metabolic waste and prevent the repetitive physical strain that progressively breaks down our cellular tissues over a prolonged workday. And this brilliantly illustrates that point. A major clinical study by Desk Time revealed that the most productive employees naturally fall into a very specific rhythm. They work for 52 minutes and then take a 17-minute break. This beautifully mirrors the body's natural ultradian rhythms. The human brain has a strictly limited, measurable capacity for sustained attention. So that 17-minute break isn't a lapse in discipline. You're not slacking off. It is a critical, active recovery phase necessary for neuroplasticity. It allows your attention networks to consolidate information, clear out the noise, and maintain elite cognitive endurance throughout the entire day.
Now, if you want a highly effective clinical protocol designed specifically to combat sedentariness, here is the ergonomic 28-2 method. The exact cadence goes like this. Step 1, sit for 20 minutes. Step 2, stand up for 8 minutes. Step 3, move actively for 2 minutes. Now you might be wondering, why exactly 20 minutes? Well, right at the 20-minute mark of static sitting, the gene expressions responsible for healthy metabolism begin to drastically downregulate. Standing and moving at that exact point reactivates your insulin sensitivity, keeps your metabolic engine running hot, and breaks that insidious cycle of static loading on your spine.
When we adopt this daily rhythm, we get to witness the profound reality of interconnected health systems. Check this out. By stepping away, you immediately lower your systemic cortisol, which reduces your baseline autonomic stress. Lowering stress reduces vascular constriction, which dramatically improves blood circulation and prevents life-threatening issues like deep vein thrombosis. And guess what? Better blood flow delivers way more oxygen to the brain, which in turn prevents digital eye strain and massively boosts your cognitive focus. Every single physical system directly influences the other. We absolutely have to start treating these micro breaks as mandatory, daily physical therapy if we want to sustain top-tier cognitive output. Let's look at a specific way to move with the desk yoga movement framework. So during those 2 minutes of active movement, what should you do? Yoga educator Sage Roundtree developed this brilliant, evidence-based system called the 642 framework. It is a highly efficient biological imperative to mobilize the body right at your desk. The sequence ensures you hit the 6 physical directions of spinal mobility: flexion, extension, lateral bending, and twisting. And remember, your spine physically houses your central nervous system. Mobilizing it in all 6 directions hydrates the spinal discs and ensures completely unrestricted neural signaling between your brain and your body. The framework also targets the 4 functional lines of the legs and activates the 2 primary modes of core engagement: stabilization and articulation. And the research backs this up beautifully. Clinical trials demonstrate that chair yoga significantly reduces pain and fatigue. But more importantly for older adults, even those managing severe osteoarthritis, the physical function improvements lasted well beyond an 8-week program. This speaks directly to the science of healthy aging. These daily micromovements trigger a vital cellular process called mechanotransduction. This preserves your joint health, increases your overall health span, and literally delays biological aging by preventing structural decay over the decades. It's not just about feeling better today, it's about cellular preservation for tomorrow. Now, let's shift gears slightly and talk about mindful breathing for stress. Chronic stress keeps our bodies totally flooded with cortisol, and chronically elevated cortisol destroys gut microbiome diversity, it triggers systemic inflammation, and it completely ruins deep sleep architecture. To intercept this destructive cascade, we can use Dr. Andrew Weil's 4-7-8 breathing technique. Here's how it works. You inhale quietly through the nose for 4 seconds. You deliberately hold that breath for 7 seconds, and then you exhale completely and audibly through the mouth for a long 8 seconds. That extended exhale mechanically activates your vagus nerve, immediately shutting down the sympathetic fight or flight response, clearing that cortisol, and preparing your body for restorative sleep and optimal digestion. It's basically a natural tranquilizer for your nervous system. You can powerfully pair this biological reset with a quick body scan meditation. Right where you are, just close your eyes and bring your attention to your forehead, your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, and down your back. The tension you feel in those spots isn't just localized muscle tightness. It is the physical manifestation, the somatic footprint of digital information overload and chronic cognitive stress. Breathing deeply into these specific areas and consciously releasing them on the exhale centers the mind and dramatically reduces the physical accumulating symptoms of burnout.
Finally, let's look at creating an actionable workplace protocol.
So how do we actually apply this incredible science at scale? Well, corporate wellness initiatives represent the absolutely necessary evolution of preventative healthcare and human performance optimization. First, companies must foster a culture that inherently encourages movement breaks, and that has to be driven from leadership down. Workspaces must be fully equipped with dynamic, active seating and variable height desks. We also need to leverage software tools for automated break reminders to ensure compliance and provide rigorous education on ergonomic alignment. Every single individual needs to deeply understand how their physical environment dictates their cognitive reality.
A brilliant, easy example of an integrated protocol is the 20-20-20 rule. It goes like this. Every 20 minutes, you must look at something 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds. When you are staring intensely at a computer screen, the ciliary muscles in your eyes become rigidly locked at a fixed focal length. This intense optical strain doesn't just hurt your eyes. It directly triggers neurological fatigue and actually depletes dopamine. So resting your visual field is essentially resting your brain. It preserves your sharp focus and prevents that debilitating end-of-day exhaustion.
We have traced the deep biological mechanisms of the sitting epidemic today, and we've explored the exact clinical tools to combat it. The biological stakes here are incredibly high, but the power is entirely yours. So which micro-intervention will you start using today to reclaim your vitality? Will you switch to active sitting to mechanically pump oxygen to your brain? Will you implement the 20-8-2 method to preserve your metabolic health? Or will you master 4-7-8 breathing to optimize your sleep architecture and lower your stress? Your cognitive longevity and your overall health span are largely determined by the micro choices you make over your next 8 hours at work. Pick one, implement it right now, and take control of your biological future.